Hi there, and welcome back to the Message Marketing Pod. I'm your host, Christopher Melotti from Melotti Media, and this is a special episode. I've got with me Matthew Forzan from Yoghurt and Yoghurt Digital, and we're really excited to talk about some interesting topics around people using marketing agencies and creative agencies. And so we're going to delve into this about marketing fragmentation and how to get the most out of your marketing, whatever kind of business you are, whatever kind of size and industry, because a lot of businesses, a lot of companies, corporates, governments turn to marketing agencies. And I think we should open the lid on this a little bit and sort of work out and show people how everyone can get the most out of these experiences. So welcome, Matthew. Do you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this topic?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Good morning. I guess a little bit about me to begin with. You and I have known each other for some time. We've done a
Yeah.
bit of work together, in I guess alternating but collaborative spaces. So happy to be here. I'm one of the founders of Yoghurt Digital. We've been established for close to 10 years now. We're celebrating in July. And what we specialize in is thank you, what we consider to be user journey optimization. So anything from awareness to traffic, then to sale, conversion, and re-engagement and loyalty.
Beautiful. Great. And yeah, I love Yoga Digital. I think you guys are a real example of how you can go from zero to hero. You know, where you started with the three of you, and now it's a full agency, and all the practices that you have in there. Like, as you said, Matthew, we've worked together for a little bit, and I've written some of your content, and just hearing about what you do and how you celebrate everyone's individuality, and that how you get I remember we wrote once that once a month you get people to present on a topic of their choice and everyone can listen
Yeah.
in and things like that. So a good example of great culture. So we are both marketing creative agencies working in different spaces and niches, still in marketing. Now I know, and everyone who listens to this podcast or watches this podcast regularly knows that we're trying to make all of these episodes really practical so you can get insights.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we, both of us, Matthew and myself, do is work in agencies. And we get that businesses can often go, well, what's the difference? Like, how do I work with you guys? So this is like a 101 on how to work effectively with a creative marketing agency and how to avoid that whole overwhelm, fragmentation of services thing. So Matt, do you
Yeah.
want to start by sort of giving a rundown of why agencies sort of specialize in things and why we do that?
Yeah, I mean, can simplify it by plugging gaps, right? A lot of the time it's either a gap of knowledge or skill or planning or a combination. And I think where people come to us is they need help with those things, as I imagine is very similar to you, in the sense that people know they need to advertise, they know they need to market to grow their businesses, but they don't particularly know how or
Yes.
which lever to pull. First of all, it's quite overwhelming. There's a lot of channels, a lot of things to consider. And a lot of businesses don't have the right structure internally where they can delegate that to, a marketing officer or a CMO or something like that.
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of our consultation hats get put on, you and I, in order to help them with that. I think, with that expression, fail to plan to fail
Yes.
is very true. And so a lot of the times these organizations firstly need help with the planning component, and
When it
then the
comes to marketing,
execution
yeah, for
comes later.
sure. Yeah.
That's right. And I think where it becomes fragmented is when it makes sense to specialize, absolutely do that. But sometimes it makes more sense to put the right people in the room, even if they are in different organizations, such as Yoga and Melotti Media. At least when we're all in the same room, we can be talking the same language and really planning for the benefit of the client. So
Yeah.
I think that's what I see quite a lot, and that's what I would recommend is just to get some help in understanding what is the opportunity and how do you gravitate towards it.
Yeah, and this is the thing. When people come to marketing agencies, right? They don't clients, they don't often think I need this specific type of marketing. I mean, some do, right? But
Yep.
most of the time, like you were saying, Matt, is that they say, I'm a small business startup, I need Google ads, and then they come and they go, I need some marketing, I need more leads, I need more. And I get it, because sometimes when these businesses come to a marketing agency and they go, typically they will Google marketing agency, a couple come up and they go,
Yep.
right, I just need to do marketing. Can you come with a plan? And I get it when some people, I mean, we're specifically in organic content and messaging and copywriting and all that sort of space. And sometimes people come to us and they go, "Oh, I need also ads. I need also, can you
Mm.
take your messaging and do that?" And and that's when we often say, "Oh, look, we don't do that directly." And I can understand where people go, "Oh my gosh, like I just need marketing. Like I'm a
Yep.
busy business, I'm a corporate." And I mean, yogurt is a lot bigger than Melotti Media. So you guys cover a lot more spaces in marketing. But in the end, you don't do everything. And I feel like for people who are coming to marketing agencies, the best agencies you will find will naturally network. And I think that's
Yep.
the thing. It's not on you as the client to need to source other people, because
Mm.
I get it, right? Because there's a lot of time that they go, "Oh, I just, it feels like there's so many people involved and there's all these pieces." But the idea behind it is a good agency like Yoga will find people and connections that they trust. Like with
Yep.
Melotti Media, we've worked together for a little while. And so the whole idea should be, when you're working with creative agencies, you don't have to worry, because the agency will find the connections they need to solve your problem. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. Well, this is our world, right? We live
Mm,
it, we breathe it, we know a lot of people inside of it. And so I think where we position ourselves, I think you're very similar, is we want to be strategic advisors for all of our clients. And so
correct.
anything that we can't help them with, we're very clear and distinct that, hey, we don't do that because that's not what we specialize in. It's not what we're good at. It's
Mm.
not what we want to do. But here is Chris. Go speak to Chris. Or here is, so and so, some other sort of side relation to what we do to help
Yes.
complement them. Because I think, and you see this with your own travels as well, people getting in touch with you, they really gel with you. They like your personality, the way that you work, the case studies that you have, etc.
Mm.
And you kind of touched on it before. They really get excited and they're, sort of embedded in the way that you do work. And then
Yeah.
when you tell them that you can't help them with something specifically, you can't just shut them down and push them
No.
away, right?
No.
You want
Yes.
to find affiliation that can support them, which is where that strategy comes in. You're an advisor now, and they really trust that, and I think that's the approach that we've taken, and it works both ways as well.
Agreed.
We're referred business from other organizations that do work that we don't. It's complementary.
And that's the thing, like you said, Matthew, is that's a perfect example. Is a lot of people will say, "Will get me to do their
Mm.
website copywriting," for instance, and then they'll say, "Fantastic, love the copy. Now, can you make it?" And often I'll say, "Oh, I can't, but based on my experience with you, I
Yep.
know 3 or 4 different website designers, one that I feel will match you better."
Yep.
And then they can take it from there. And I feel like that's the message I want to get to people, is when you're working with creative agencies, the onus should be on them. They will find the solution, right? And
Mm.
you, like you said, Matthew, is that we often get chosen because of our style, our approach, the connection that people have.
Mm.
Like today,
Mm.
it's paradoxically, we do a lot of digital marketing, but people need to, and that brings them into the top of the funnel. But a lot of clients don't choose us for that alone. They choose us when they speak to us. And so,
Yep.
like you were saying, Matthew, is that people will go, "Oh, I like the vibe of Chris, right? I will choose Melotti Media, like the vibe
Yep.
of Matthew and his team. I would choose Yoga Digital." And then what happens is they go and then they hit that roadblock where they go, "All right, so you put the plan together, but you can't do this."
Mm.
That's when you, like, as the client, you need to say, "Hey, marketing agency, I need this, find someone to do it." And that's what we as marketing agencies do. So don't
Yep.
fear. The point of this is, don't fear that a marketing agent doesn't do everything, because a good one will have connections that will fill
Yep.
those
Yep.
gaps.
That's right. Yep.
And so where do you think the future of marketing agencies are going? But like, and this is in perspective of a client that's listening right now going, "Oh, should I be working with a marketing agency, or working internally with or a
Mm.
freelancer?" Where do you think, like, the strength of marketing agencies is, and where are we going with this?
It's a great question. I think so. I'm close to 20 years in this game, if that's what we'll call it.
Oh,
And what
right.
I've seen
Same.
is
How,
this,
like, we obviously use good cream.
it's the office life, right? Like
Mm.
rarely outside, but thanks for that.
Yeah.
I've seen it kind of go ebbs and flows where previously there was a need or a desire to have everything in one place, right? Because
Yeah.
you have, the old one choke to throat type thing. You've
Yes.
got,
I
one
love that. It's a
meeting,
weird saying, isn't it?
one account manager, all that sort of thing, right? And that really made a lot of sense for a period of time. And then where we started 10 years ago was in very specific specialization, right? We were doing SEO and paid media and conversion optimization, but we were putting that together in such a way that it was a sort of a one package to really maximize performance. And that was specialization. We got a lot of good feedback from that. In the last few years, we've seen specialization sort of come back, and there's a hybrid approach to some degree. But where people are specializing, sometimes they want to go to, say, an agency that only does SEO. And the perception there is that, well, if that's all they do, they must be very good at it, right? Now, pros and cons of that, but the way that we kind of position it is if you are putting all your eggs in that basket, you then have to put eggs in a paid media agency basket, a copywriting basket, a design agency, and then suddenly you've got 4 or 5 agencies that you're working with where at the very minimum, you now need to hire a marketing person just to have the meetings with the agencies to keep them, on track and make sure that they're doing what you need them to do. The other kind of exploration of that is, well, I work with a lot of companies that are set up that way. And we like to have those conversations and explore to understand what would it look like if you were to get some economies of scale by consolidation, or at the very least, bring down the walls and get everyone in the same room. I think a lot of companies, agencies in particular as well, a little bit cagey with sharing. They feel like maybe someone's out to take their lunch, or they don't want to share their secret sauce. Whereas for us, part of our profiling when we talk to clients is to understand who are you working with and how can we work with them versus be a threat to them, right? So in, say, for example, a lot of the work we do, we typically need development support. We don't do web development. We never have. And so we've got partners in that area, but if we're working with a prospect or a client that already has that, that's great. Let's go have a coffee with them. Let's all get in the same room. Let's understand their workflow and them understand ours so that we can work more effectively together for the good of the client. And I think that, kind of talked about a few ways of that. Almost all of them are fragmented, but bringing them together is really where you succeed. And there are certain things where you absolutely need specialization. And yeah, that's I guess that's kind of probably what you're seeing as well, I imagine.
100%.
With copywriting, right? Yeah.
It's a big gray area, isn't it? Because a lot of people, they like a lot of clients will say, "Oh, I need someone that specializes in this area." But you often find that the high quality agencies, they have someone that is specializing that area, right? So, I mean, with for example, with Melotti Media, of course, we specialize in content and copywriting, and we do content marketing, right? That's fair enough. But like in the case of Yoghurt, it's not like you guys are doing 7 types of marketing and you're average at all of them or anything like that. You've got like an SEO specialist. You've got like these kind of people inside. So it's like you work with, say, yourself, Matt, and you do the strategy and the planning. And then from there, then it's like, okay, once that's in place, now we can give it to the specialists, like, the organic content comes to Melotti Media. But then you might have like your internal SEO specialist that will do something. You'll have all these people. So the point of that is, don't fear, like when you're working with an agency, don't worry too much. A good quality agency with a lot of Google reviews and a lot of evidence, and one that you connect with when you meet them, they will find, like, they have specialists in those areas. Because I mean, I don't know, I'm not speaking for you, Matt, but my reputation and my business reputation is so important to me.
Of course.
So I'm never going to go, oh yeah, we can just do that and try and work it out. Like, I always make sure that we can deliver on these kind of things. So it's really important that you don't, like, when you're doing your due diligence as a client looking at an agency, there are a lot of options out there, but like, ask them these kind of questions. What do we have? What do we need to do? Who have you got working on these areas? And those kind of questions will make you feel more at ease.
And also, I guess almost equally important, what don't you do? Because if there's a perception that you're finding an all-in-one, most likely that doesn't exist. And that's okay. We can talk about where potentially the gaps and the other specialists come into play. But I think understanding what's not being done is quite important too.
Yes. Agreed. So last thing I want to talk about is, I mean, do we address the elephant in the room here of, like the AI phenomenon and all of this sort of thing and where it's going and what it is? And like, I don't want to dwell on this because I think people are a bit bored to death now. I think that it's
Yep,
been
yep,
saturated and people are kind of a little bit fed up. But I still
yep.
want to scratch the surface of and get our both of our opinions on how AI is collaborating with agencies, who's adopting it,
Mm,
and what should clients know about AI
mm.
when it comes to working with agencies. What do you think there?
So I agree with you. I think it's been spoken about
I'm
to
bored to
death
death.
at this point.
I'm teaching a class on AI today, and I'm just like, oh, right. But
But there's still so much to talk about, I
it
think,
is,
from this
huge
lens, right?
paradox.
Because there I think for us, agency land, we're very deep in it, right? And we have been
Mm,
for a long time. Even previous to ChatGPT and the likes, right? We've been looking at machine learning for a long time to understand how we can better analyze data or how we can better scale the work that we do. And I think it's important that in the client world that they understand what we're doing with it, because if you're doing nothing with it, that's probably a red flag. And if you're automating everything and reducing your quality, that's also a red flag. And so where we're seeing it is very much a tool, right? Is to
yes,
like what can we use to speed up our workflow and free up time for our specialized people and strategists to be able to then sit there and analyze that information at a higher level and be able to communicate it better to a client. So
yes,
if we use that example, if we're using, say, AI to analyze a report, print out some insights, and then we're just flicking that to a client, that's a very bad outcome because the person doing that is not understanding what's actually happening there. And
yes.
so with that case, we've done very simple things like, some automations between our tools internally at the agency, which just help us spend less time on admin, more time on client work, right?
Yeah.
Easy one. Other more advanced things we're working on is building some custom models where we're feeding things like screenshots of landing pages that have converted better so that we can sort of almost teach our own model what makes a better landing page to then pull out insights that we can then use as action points to build experimentation and then communicate that to the client. So we actually use this AI tool to build some heat mapping because,
There you go.
if we were to do this the old way, we'd be looking at 3 months worth of data. It's to a, 88% accuracy. There's a tool provided by Microsoft. It's got MIT backing. It's very good.
There
So
you
like
go.
those types of things, if you are a client and you're wanting to know how agencies using AI, have that chat because that one example there, it gets you better results. It creates more efficiencies. And in
Mm,
some cases, it can also save you money because you're not having to load a lot of that resource with that work that was previously done. Very, very grueling, very taxing. You would know in web world as well, like doing things like redirects when you build a new website. That's a
mhm.
very manual process. And we're seeing things like there's different models you can use that will, crawl websites, old website, new website, look for pattern matching in strings and bring back a list where it says, this is 80% accurate. These ones we're not really sure about. And so that list of 1,000 URLs is now maybe a list of 100 URLs to get the same outcome.
Yeah.
So lots of opportunity there. I
Yeah.
think where it gets dangerous is where people are taking the assumption that it's a lazy route and that we're not really doing the same work anymore. We're just plugging it all into a machine and it magically
That's it.
comes out,
Yes. Actually, I think
right?
that's the insight we need to articulate here is for people who are thinking of using marketing agencies, right? That I want to reiterate that. Like I'm okay, I can't speak to everyone. I'm sure that there's would be some agencies that are using it to cut corners, right? I
Mm,
get that. But again, when it comes to speaking with quality marketing agencies like Yogurt, like Melotti Media, who really care about our reputations and what we do, and you, when you're doing your due diligence for everyone listening or watching, you will do that step where you talk to the team and all that. I want
yep.
to, I want to address this issue, which is don't assume that we're just going, oh, like for us, we're doing copywriting, right? Don't assume that we're going, well, now we don't write a thing. We
Yeah,
just
just give
plug it
give the
into
brief
AI,
to
give it
the
right
to the
back.
AI. Yep.
Right. And I can understand where that perception comes from because people would think that they would go,
Mm,
well, Melotti Media can make a lot of money if we just fire all our writers and AI. But I can assure you, and it's not like just oh, Chris is just saying that or Max is just saying that or anything like that to hide it. Not at all. Like it's AI is just not there. And I to be honest, I don't think it will ever be there to replace copywriters. It augments them, right? And sure, it augments your team, like you explaining, Matt, where you had, instead of everyone going in manually and doing a lot of the checking stuff, AI can do a lot of that and saves a lot of time. And often those cost savings are translated over to the client because if it's less
Absolutely. Yeah.
grueling. But the thing is, I just want to make everyone aware that, again, I can't speak for everyone, but don't assume that the agency that you're choosing, and you know what, you can just ask them outright, right? I would be happy to be asked that, but don't assume that that's what we're doing and we're charging you the same amount or anything like that, because a lot of the times it's just not possible because AI does a great job at doing the basic stuff, but when it comes to it, is that real innovative thinking comes from humans. And I always say it's like I call it the human AI sandwich, right? You need a human with 20 years of marketing expertise to prompt it to say the right things. And then you need a human editor with lots of experience to craft what it does into an effective way. And it's an actually really big thing. Like a lot of people are just seeing how good ChatGPT and all those variants of it are, and they're going, "Well, how would you do any better?" But it's actually every day I show my team examples. For example, here's an example, just so people can actually understand. We were putting together some ideas for an insolvency firm. And we were looking at their website. And when I interviewed the client, which is something that AI can't do, I was interviewing him and getting all the feedback and all that, like you do. And we were doing all of that, getting all the information from him. And we put it all into this page and all of that, right? And ChatGPT, when we were doing research, it was saying, oh, it sounds like he has a very calm approach to the way he does things. Now, my writer went, oh, that's a good word, calm. And we can maybe use that. And I said, no, we don't use the word calm. We use the word level-headed. And he was like, oh, why? And I said, because calm in this context, it's hard to explain just in this, but just to give people an example, calm in this sounds like complacency, right? Whereas level-headed sounds like based on strategy, based on conviction, confidence. And that is something that AI does not do, right? It will produce the path of least resistance, which is the word calm. But as a human, understanding the context around this client and the marketing positioning, it doesn't do that. It looks at a language model. It doesn't look at context and positioning. And that is what a human copywriter does. It takes it in the right direction.
That's right. It's so important in insolvency industry, right? Like that is not something you want to be calm about. It's very serious,
and
right?
That's the thing. But he said calm, and then my writer was like, "Oh, that sounds like an appropriate word," and that's what AI has also pulled out of these recordings. And I was like, "No, like," and that's as a copywriter, we and marketer, anyone, right, have to use our integrity and our experience to be able to look at these sort of things. So that's why I just want everyone to listen, everyone listening and watching and all that. This is what we need to be thinking about.
Such a good example. And such a good example as well of your expertise, helping your team member craft their skills as well, right? Which is why I think going back to the agency interview questions, like you want to know who's involved. It's not just here is, Tim.
XYZ,
right? Like Chris will be involved too.
Yes, and
he
I
needs to be
everything. And
right. And that's so valuable.
So
it's not just, I think as founders, we're not, just out there being salespeople and then, sell
and pumping AI. That's what people think. They must be
right.
They're out at lunches and just pumping AI and firing all our people. Not at all. So I think that like we'll wrap it up with this, but the main insight is, as we talked about, is yes, right? We understand that marketing just isn't one thing anymore. It's so many different frontiers. And so it's really important to, as a client or a potential client, is to speak to the agency, like Matt and I were saying, understand, feel a good connection with them, ask them those questions, who's going to be specializing in what I do and who's putting the plan together. And then leave it up to the agency to fill those gaps, right? Don't stress about, oh, I need someone like this and all that. As a marketing agency, we need to solve that for you. And then just know that we are, as smart marketing agencies, are adapting with the times and AI, and we're using it appropriately to still get you the best result, the ones that care. Matt, anything to wrap it up with?
No, I think, nail on the head. Like we're pretty friendly people. Most of us, I'd say, like ask the questions, you get the answers. And if you don't, then, maybe look elsewhere, right? I think that's the best thing to do is, you want to do business with people that you're comfortable with, that you like, that have sort of shone the light on something that maybe is unclear to you. And as soon as you find those people, try and work with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Matthew. That's
Thanks, pleasure.
Matthew's from Yoghurt Digital. Have a look at their website. They're excellent. They're such a fantastic forward-thinking agency, very agile, and they're a pleasure to work with. So
Thanks,
definitely speak to the Yoghurt team. Like, it's just, you've got a great culture, a great expertise. You've got a long track record of award-winning results. You know, people should check you out. And if you're looking for marketing services, you know, speak to Matthew at Yoghurt. Thank you everyone for listening to this special episode of the Message Marketing Pod. I'm your host, Christopher Melotti, and please subscribe to our podcast, and I look forward to talking to you again in the next episode. Thank you. Thanks, Matt, for joining us.
Cheers. Bye.